Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Penalty Loop Podcast, a podcast about biathlon by Jordan Gottschalk from Penalty Loop and a regular guest, RJ Weiss from Biathlon Analytics.
Hi.
RJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm a little bit tired still. I thought it was a pretty easy transition after coming home, but definitely can tell at the end of the day there's still some tiredness creeping in. But other than that, it's I've caught up on watching all the races since I got home. I mean, as some people online in social media alluded to, that we're nerds because we watched a couple of races right after the races back in the hotel during dinner. We had the replay on, but it's nice to just, sit in your couch and be able to just experience it again. And it's a really weird feeling. And it feels like it was 2 months ago that we were there. And when you see the races, it's really hard to realize that we were right there. And I also, from what I've seen, and I, obviously knew where we were standing, but I still didn't really see us despite my bright green-yellow jacket. But then, of course, you were there. So it's kind of an odd experience that way. But then there's a lot of memories that are very vivid, talking to Lou and Sturla, J. Thibault, and, standing right there, that expression on your face of standing like a 10-year-old who meets his lifetime hero right at the end there when Tobias was like, "Hey, Jordan, this is, Tarja, this is Jordan from US." It was nice to see things like after the race and stuff, like the whole, when Preutz and Lou got together at the finish line there, we saw that from a little bit farther away, and then, watching it now, you've read a little bit more about what was said and that kind of thing, so it seems to make more sense. My impression from the finish line was that Lou was not upset with Preutz, but there was something else, because she seemed to be pointing at the straight of the finish line, but that's just something I didn't see correctly, probably because there was some moisture in my eyes. That was such a weird experience. I don't tend to, I used to get quite emotional watching games, but I think in the last 10 years, I can really enjoy it. I get a genuine smile or feeling of happiness when let's say when Lesser won his last race, for example, I feel very happy for him, but it's not I get very emotional per se. But I think just that particular race, there was already the tension for everybody, and then meeting the family from Germany, and then especially talking to Preutz's mom and seeing the tension on her face, and was her aunt, right?
Her aunt, and her sister, yeah.
And then we were standing basically trackside between coaches and other athletes, and I kept thinking. I kind of kept thinking this. It's not right that she's standing there on one spot somewhere in the trees, and we're standing basically three feet away or a meter away from the athletes when they pass by. But then seeing how nervous she was when her mom, how nervous she was when we talked to her there, she might have passed out on the sideline, but. Yeah, it was just a very, very weird experience. And we were talking before the race because, for months we've been saying, I'm happy for both. And I would have been super excited for Lou as well. But it's often in those moments, just before the race, where you, in your heart, feel, who you are rooting for in the end, if it comes down to it. So anyway, there's a lot of things coming together there, and I was pretty touched by the whole scenario, and of course the disappointment of the how to finish or the final minutes went, but at the same time, very, very, because it's like you don't want it to happen that Lou fell. Mm-hmm. Of course not, or either one, because you don't want it to finish that way. But then at the same time, you have that realization that Preuss is actually going to win it. So you're thrilled and excited, but sad, and it was a very interesting experience, I must say.
I also think that my first memories when I think of going back to that weekend or of that race, and of course, I mean, it was just a wild moment that that entire overall globe race comes down to those two athletes. One race, they're separated by 20 points. I mean, it's like sort of a dream scenario. And those are the clearest memories for me are of everything that happens around there. And like you said, so we got there on Sunday and we walked around the course, and you could, even pretty early on, there was excitement, but also it just felt more tense than it did the day before. Mm-hmm. It's almost like it was the first couple of days, and this is probably my impression or my own feelings coloring it a little bit more than actually was the case, but it was a very party atmosphere, with the first couple of days, and just felt a little bit more tense on the day of, just because everyone knew, this is it. It's the moment it's going to happen.
Well, nobody started in the hotel, right?
Yes. Yeah. Very much more like game faces. So before the races, we walked over to the hotel where the athletes were staying, and actually that morning we got to meet a couple of people. Tobias came over and he was always in a good mood, no surprise, but
yeah.
We met like Max Cobb and Ollie Dolan, but we saw a couple of the athletes walking around, and just, we saw Lou, she looked happy to see her parents, but otherwise I think RJ, you said that she looked very, tense.
Yeah. At first glance, she looked relaxed. Yeah. And I mean, she smiled in both times that I saw her, but the second time you could definitely see that.
Yeah.
She was tense, and of course, there was couple hours before the race, and
mm-hmm.
I don't know, be happy for her if she slept well, but I can't imagine that you get a lot of good sleep and stuff. But
no.
Anyway, it's
and then over on the course, when we got over to the venue, I felt more anxiety. And I don't remember if I said this on just to you, or I think I've said it to other people too, but I clearly would have been happy for either one to win. I think both of them would have been very deserving champions, and just knowing where Preuss is in her career, was thinking this might be her in the struggle she's had with health and injuries. This might be her last best chance to win it. So I kind of was very sentimental to her. So, and then we clearly had those experiences with the German family we met, and seeing Preuss's family out on the hill. And by the time it was 30 minutes before the race, I was quite anxious. I just I just felt like it felt like I had snakes in my stomach. They were all twisting and twirling around in there. And it was,
I think you mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah. I was so nervous, and just to take you behind the scenes of where we were, we in the 30 minutes leading up to the race, I think we walked down into the stadium. We said hey to Biathlon Stats, or Christoph, very nice man, and we'll talk about that more later. But we said hi to him and his brother. Walked along in front of the stands, down the final straightaway. I think we popped into the media center just to use the restroom real quick. But then we kind of were looking for somewhere to stand, because we just didn't know where to be for that race, and we ended up standing.
We started with that super friendly French media guy, right?
French media guy, yeah. And we were sort of behind the media area, maybe 50 yards behind the finish line, a little bit off to the side. But you could still see the range, you could see the finish line, and so we were standing up there. And for the first, it got to the point where during the shooting, I had to literally walk away. and not look because I was getting anxious. So there's like this ramp, and I would like walk down away this ramp, and I had to walk by this person who was sort of controlling access to the media area. And I think by the third or fourth shooting, she's like, "Really, you're still doing this? Like, can you just stay here?"
Is that why they kicked us out?
No, I don't think that's why they kicked us out. But anyway, that's what I was going to say. Is that they warned us.
Sorry,
that
so the funny thing is that every time we walk by, like we would get to the stadium, and there's those porta potties, and every time you had to go pee. So the first time you walked away, I'm like, my God, does he have to pee now? Because I was like, this is the first shooting, and then he walks. And then, of course, the second time I realized that it was for other reasons.
Yeah, just anxiety.
Anyway.
No, so then we get back up there, and we're watching the fourth shooting, and we're about the athletes are about to come in, and this representative from the IVU, one of the people was like, "Hey, you're probably not supposed to be standing up here," and she did. She let us watch the last shooting. And then afterwards was like, "Hey, you saw it. Like, we need you to go somewhere else now." But so thank you for letting us watch the last shooting.
Yeah.
And then we hustled up to where so as the athletes come out of the venue, so they come out of the range and they go straight, sort of it's a gradual up. And then you'll see, on their way out of the range as they're heading back out into the course, they pass, a bunch of, coaches, and that's where you'll see coaches
it's a bridge, right?
Yeah, it's a bridge. Yeah, it actually goes right over the media center. And they are, hollering out encouragement, that kind of stuff. So we were standing up there with them. And at this point, so RJ is a pretty cool dude.
And we didn't know at that point, right?
What, that it was?
We did, up to that point, we didn't really know that we were allowed there. I think you checked it out like an hour before.
Yeah, we didn't. We had no idea we were allowed there the entire week. I mean, I next time we're there, I'll probably spend some more time up there because it's a pretty awesome place to watch from. But anyway, RJ, pretty chill guy. I don't, you didn't get really all that riled up or anxious during the races the entire week. So we're walking up there, and all of a sudden I see you're chewing on your nails, like, and I'm like trying to talk to you, and you were just like, it was like overcoming you with the anxiety of the moment. And I thought that was really cool.
And just for reference, like, I never ever bite my nails or fingers or what. Like, I just never do that.
And I don't mean like he was acting like he was literally biting his nails. It's just really cool. It's just neat when you can watch like something, we've talked about this for how many years now, and watch it just like how it really got into you in that moment. I thought that was really neat. And so for the final lap, I mean, just so you guys know where we were, RJ, we're in this pretty big area, where all the coaches and athletes and stuff are. And RJ was you were standing over sort of by yourself in a corner. And I think it was sort of, you were just separating and wanting to be a little bit with your own emotions in that moment. And I sort of drifted over to, because the athletes go out, and then when they come back in, they make that hard right turn that hard left turn, that we all are so familiar with now. And so I kind of walked over towards where we were going to be able to see that best from. And that's where I was standing when Lou and Franzi came back around into the stadium. And I don't know how much you remember from that particular moment.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
Because I think I was kind of looking at the scoreboard to see them around the corner. And I think when they showed that corner, I was kind of trying to look back, but there were people in front of me and stuff. And then all of a sudden, the first thing I see is Franzi skiing out. So my first thought was, oh, she's still ahead of Lou. And then I realized that Lou wasn't coming. And I think you came over to me or whatever. Or anyway, from a commotion of multiple people, I realized that something had happened. And then I think you said something about her falling. And
so, I found a video. You were taking a video at the time, and I came over. I ran across it as I was going through all of our pictures and videos this weekend. You can hear me come over, and like there's sort of like disbelief in my voice. I was like, Lou fell. Lou fell. So I had been standing over on the side, I guess, near the Canadian team, and you just saw her, like, they came around the corner. All of a sudden it was like, what is Lou doing on her butt? Like, why is she sitting down? Like, it just almost like it, like it's like my brain has just blocked out that moment of her actually going down, and it's like 1 minute she's coming around the corner, and the next minute she's sitting on the ground. And it's just it's pretty. That was and to be standing in that area around all of those other athletes, and like and I'm not sure how much you were aware of them, but just like watching them react to it was as interesting as the actual race at that point. Was that they were all, regardless of whether they cared whether Franzi won or Lou won, they were all just like, I can't believe that's how it ended. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I just,
Somewhat anticlimactic.
yeah. And like everybody was saying, like, I just wanted it to be fair. I just wanted it to be, and not that anybody did anything bad. It just, you kind of were hoping to see them. There was one last uphill, right? There was the final straightaway. You thought there would be time for like one or two more attacks left, and we just never got to see it.
Well, and the nice thing too is that straight is long enough that even if you're on that bump, you're behind, you can still pass. Like that. There, I mean, you have to be quite a bit stronger at that point, but I mean, it's possible, right?
Yeah. By the way, so anyway, obviously, Preuss ends up winning, but we didn't. We didn't notice until watching back. I think when we were sitting at dinner, when she comes over that bump and just briefly
Almost
bobbles.
falls.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, oh no. Oh, yeah. I'm really glad that didn't happen.
Yeah. No, and I when I rewatched it was on a German TV and seeing some of the interviews and that kind of thing, and so I know a little bit more what they were talking about and stuff, and I think from what I understood, Preutz basically already went over saying sorry, and clearly she wasn't really celebrating, and I think she basically told Lou that she was going to ask the IBU to if they could make a second cup and just have them both win the overall.
Yeah.
And then it sounded like Lou right off the bat said it was my own fault, and so yeah, there was no hard feelings, and there was a bit of confusion after the race with the protest, and I think it seeped through to us that Lou had already said no, let's not do that. At the other end, I can see that the French team didn't want to. Like, I think it's more the longer they would have waited, the harder it would have been to still put a protest in. So the fact that they did just more to give them a little bit more time to look into it a couple more times. And I think they withdrew it like a couple minutes later anyway. So, I mean, it's one of those things where even if Lou at that point felt like, no, it was my mistake, that's also at such a moment of, high adrenaline, etc. So you also don't want to be like 20 minutes later and look at it again and like, oh, I guess it was actually Preutz's pull or whatever, right? And it wasn't, but you don't want to then find out that maybe you should have protested. So I could understand, but I think in the end it was resolved well, and the respect they had for each other we all knew, but that's again also coming together of two super cool athletes, that feeling of biathlon family that we've talked about so many times, and other athletes coming by and both giving support to Lou and congratulations to Preutz, but not in a way that could offend Lou. Like, it was all, I don't know, just very respectful and just
I finally got a chance
to be part of it. Like, was very
to watch it back.
I'm very grateful for having that opportunity, and shout out to IBU who allowed us both to come and gave us access to pretty much everywhere except the shooting range, which even on the first couple of days we could get pretty close to where that camera is by the first lane. So we're very lucky, considering that there were some fans there that go every year and couldn't even find tickets for the stands. So, and I must say I'm happy not being one of those people that would have paid, I don't know, quite a bit of money to be on those stands, because it was
pretty packed.
Was it Friday or Saturday?
Friday,
where we were
Friday.
Just sitting down on the stands, and then people started creeping, or like filling up the stands, and there was these announcements of, please get to know your neighbors because you're going to get pretty cozy, because we need more people to sit. both you and I were like, "Oh, I don't like this," because you're kind of squished in, and you feel like you can't really get out.
Yep.
And I don't like that feeling. And I learned that, as we learned, we have many things in common, and that was one of them. Because we were both like, "Yeah, no, this is not going to work."
No, and that's how we ended up in position to get in trouble with the IBU, because that's how we ended up standing on the course near that treacherous downhill during the women's sprint where Grotian went down, and you got a video of it and shared it with after the race. You shared it with Sverre Roysland, and he thought that Selena Grotian might want to see it. So just being friendly, you sent it over to her on Instagram, and she
and being old, I didn't know how to just send it to her, so I just posted it because I didn't, and then send her a link because I didn't really know how else to do it. But
and then she shared it, and then it got onto German TV, and it got traced back to you and me, and then we got a nice little email. To be fair, I got a nice little email from the IBU saying that we were not supposed to be filming at the venue, which is true. We were not. And so we of course pulled it down and apologized profusely. But that's how we ended up there, is because we got too crowded in the stands on Friday.
and it was just such a, I mean, it wasn't a fluke that it happened before us, because we were already in a warm up. We were like, wow, this is a sketchy hill.
Yep.
But the way, I think I was filming Emma, and that was more, to maybe give to her afterwards, because it was one, that wasn't her last race yet. I think that was a sprint, right?
It was a sprint, yeah.
But, and then I kind of turned back with the camera, and then I saw that Doro, I think, was coming by.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian on my team, he's a big fan of hers. So I just decided to film her too. And then you follow the athlete, and then, where they kind of turn left to loop around onto the bridge. In that view, there was another athlete coming down the hill. So I was like, oh, I'll just film that one too. Just, I don't know. That just, your sort of natural response. And that was Gojan, who literally couldn't have fallen in a better place from a videoing perspective.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was not fun to see, because my first response was that she wasn't going to get up.
Oh, she looked like she was hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, man, I should run out there, because, in my day job, that's what I would do. But I was also like, I don't want to run out there and get in trouble, and thankfully, I think one of the Norwegian coaches checked on her.
Yeah, he was there right away. And they also know better what to do, because I don't know exactly what the rules are, but I have a feeling that as soon as you help an athlete, they could be disqualified obviously for being helped. So then, my only thing was that I was looking at other athletes coming their way to potentially, I don't know, just jump in front and tell them to,
Well, yeah, because she slid, she came down the hill, and then it's you got athletes going both
kind of
directions,
on the edge, right?
And she was right on the edge, Yep. But
see, that's why I wore that bright yellow jacket.
Yeah, to be
just in case,
to be security. But you were right. We saw a handful of other athletes. I particularly remember Lena Haki Gross. I think it was her first or second lap coming around, where she almost fell in the exact same spot. We saw a couple of others, and we had turned to each other several times, saying like, "Someone's going to fall on this." It just, I don't know if it got icy under the bridge or what, but
and it's because I think also that bump where you were talking about where Francie almost fell.
Yep.
Right into the last straight. There were so many athletes, remember, on the Friday even?
Yes.
That were just like technicians that would just ski into the stadium from there. And not that they were almost falling, but almost, I would say at least half of the athletes were sort of like out of balance, because it's that weird, you go down and then all of a sudden the transitions seem to be kind of weird because of the snow. And anyway. Yeah, it's but luckily she was fine. Like, I think she probably, maybe if it wasn't the last event of the season, maybe she wouldn't have raced the mass start. with the rest of the season still in front of her. But
yep. We've talked like 25 minutes and we've not even mentioned like what was supposed to be the big event. I think that just goes to show you how, and I don't know if it played this way for people who were watching at home, but at least like when you were in the venue, like the women's mass start felt like the main event that day. And like the men's mass start was sort of like this sort of friendly celebration to close off the season. I really felt like all the tension was gone after and to be fair, the men's overall race was already decided and we already knew about the retirements coming up. And I felt like we had talked about retirements for JT and Tarja the entire last month or so. And so it was almost like all that was done. Now we just got to celebrate them one last time. But I think
they planned it this way mostly for the Bow brothers' retirement after. But I think in the end it worked out well because, for a lot of people that would have meant another couple of hours of stress. And
oh my gosh, can you imagine if we had to sit around and wait?
Yeah, no.
Couldn't have done it. Before we move on, I just wanted to say one last time, what an amazing, and we'll touch on this, I'm sure, 5 or 6 more times, but the entire season comes down to the last race for the women's overall. It was the top 2 women for pretty much the entire year. Like you knew these were the ones who were the women to beat. And in the final weekend, you have Preuss winning the sprint by 0.2 seconds, basically because of like her lunge at the end. Jean Monod comes back and wins the pursuit. And then you have the mass start and they're going head to head. And it comes down to they're both in the range for the final shoot, not just standing side by side because, with the tension of the overall, but they're also in the mix to win the race. So they're racing really well in the last race of the season to potentially win the final race and with it the Globe. And they both hit their last 5 shots. And I cannot get past that, right? That in that huge tension moment, they both knocked down all of their shots. It is incredible to me that they did that. They raced side by side in the final lap of the last race of the season. That is crazy. We were so privileged. I cannot remember just such a high leverage moment to decide the Globe in the last couple seasons. It was incredible. And we got to be there to see it. And I'm at a loss for words now. Clearly, I was not at a loss for words because on the plane home, I wrote like 5,500 words about it. So maybe it's just that I've spent all my words. I still cannot get over that moment and how incredible those 2 women were. And it really went to prove that no matter who won that race, they were both deserving champions. Like they both raced that race to win, and they were incredible all season long.
Yeah, and even to the point where throughout the season, if you would have asked me, if they're both coming down the straight, who do you think would win the finals and sprint? I would have picked Lou, but on that day, I wasn't so sure.
Well, especially watching it back, right?
And Preuss had such good skis as well.
She did. And Lou makes that move up the hill, and Preuss, what was it, like a meter and a half? Like it wasn't much longer than that.
Yeah,
right. And she just didn't let her get away. And then coming down when they came around, the Bohagen, I guess is what they called it that weekend. And you just saw Preuss sort of glide up next to her. And I was like, Preuss could do this, and obviously by the time we saw we knew the finish, but it was like, I kind of think that Preuss could have taken her in a final sprint, but unfortunately we'll never know. Also, while I'm thinking about it, on that last lap and throughout the weekend, but especially that last lap, the stadium PA announcer did an amazing job of giving you the play-by-play of what was going on. So even being in the stadium and only getting the little video that we got on the screens, you could get a sense for what was happening out there. So I don't know who he is, but he did amazing. Yeah.
It's I was hoping to talk to Elvira after the race. To ask her how much it played a role for her to be like, I want to win this race, but I definitely don't want to get in the way, or because I think even the last stretch she skied like everybody, like 99% of the athletes were all hugging the boards on the left in the shade.
Yeah.
And Elvira, her last straight, down to the shooting range. And then when they go up the hill, she's like as far right as you can imagine.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't know if that was just how it worked out to avoid Lou or whatever, but I don't know. I was really curious to ask her, like, were you just like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to be the one that trips somebody up or gets in the way. And the whole race must have been kind of interesting from her perspective, right? Because, she was, 15 seconds behind after leaving the stadium.
Yeah.
But probably knew that, they're probably going to play a little bit of tactical game psych and obviously being one of the best skiers too. But so she catches up kind of on that hill by the church where our German friends were standing. And then I wasn't sure if she was going to just pass by, but she was probably spent quite a bit of energy to catch up. So she kind of tucks behind, but then even there, it already felt like she was just, I'm not going to, take a inside corner or whatever. I don't want to be that person. So
when she finally did, she moved to the front. I think she moved well to the outside. It's like, all right, I'm going to go around you guys. And if you want to come with me, that's fine, but I'm not touching you. And for context.
And that was the best part of it, is that it really came down to whoever gets in first of those two, whether it's first and second or first and third or second and third, like
didn't matter.
Whoever got in first would win. And that was just, so it was really a battle between the two. And then, Elvira was just happened to be probably at the best view of everybody, but
Elvira, who for a big chunk of the season was, the third in the overall and right there with them. So it's not like she was some schlub who just happened to be up there. None of these women are schlubs. But you know what I mean? Like she was one of the best all season long. So just kind of to cap the season off. And then this is of course in context of Preuss in the pursuit. Apparently her pole got broken by Lena Hacke-Gross totally by accident. But so it was like this had just happened the day before and who knows if that would have made any sort of impact in her final finishing place. But it just so happened that she finished, I think, in fifth in the pursuit to make the gap. Yeah. What was it, 5 points for Lou?
Yeah. From what I heard, it was like she literally got a new pole like 5 meters after.
Okay.
I think it was more, you and I talked about how it was her, Heike Gross, and Julia Simon, I think.
Yeah.
With the three of them, and on that last, the Bohagen backside kind of thing.
Yeah. There's
quite a bit of uphill, and it felt like she was trying to go on the right side and then on the left side, and she felt like a little bit stuck behind. And I don't know, I assume that the pole incident happened before that already, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because this is going back to the pursuit. She tried to make a move and just sort of got stuck.
Yeah. But
this entire race, I mean, going back to the sprint on Friday, I mean, both of these women knowing that they have to be at their best to win the overall. And then Preuss goes out there, hits 10 of 10, has that, of course, that lunge across the finish line and collapses, clearly gave everything she had. And then Jean Monod was, I can't remember how many bibs behind her, but to also hit 10 for 10, knowing that Preuss was skiing really well that day. And anything less was going to be
I think she was only 2 or 3 bibs behind, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that far, right? So she knew that she had
like
to,
a minute or a minute and a half,
And I don't know if you were still there. I think it might have been just me at that point. So we saw Preuss, and then I think you went to the finish area. And then Jean Monod was coming up to finish, and watching her come down that finishing stretch. And from our perspective, at first you couldn't tell. You knew it was really close, but you couldn't totally tell if if she was on the negative side or the plus side. That is, I can't get over how close a race that was.
Yeah, and rewatching the race, knowing that gap, there's like 1,000 points where you're like, if she didn't put her glasses on and took like 2 or 3 tries to get them on properly, could have been 0.2 seconds right there. But of course, there's also 1,000 points where you can say that of Preuss. So then,
I know it's
right.
unbelievably close. Yeah. We got really lucky. We got to see them at their best.
Oh yeah, I remember that last, like when the men's race was over. You know, they often say like a kid in a candy store, but it felt like a kid in a candy store where the store owner said you can grab whatever candy you want, kind of thing. You know,
Yeah,
with like being surrounded by all these
everybody.
athletes. I think at some point you're like, oh, look behind you, and was practically standing back to back with Sturla. And
Yes. We were standing there watching the men's overall ceremony, and like, what was it? A meter behind us was the entire French team opening up the jug of whatever, alcohol they had in there, getting the party started. Right? It was just
sure it was just water.
Oh, sure it was. Yeah, It was flavored water with.
Well, and then QFM was standing pretty much right next to us, and
yeah.
all the Emilien Jacquelin. Was it him who tripped on the stairs almost?
No, that was Dalla.
Oh, Dalla, yeah.
Yeah, Dalla wipes out on the stairs.
I think Jacquelin was also kind of joking around. And
well, Tobias, remember? So we were chatting with Tobias, and I had just asked Tobias. I said, Tobias, what were you thinking when you saw Jacquelin go, blasting away on the second lap, and he just, busts out with this huge laughter. Immediately after that, he sees Jacquelin on the stairs and goes and runs over there to chat with them to find out what was going on. The Finnish women were taking that picture, so I ran over there and grabbed a shot of them. It was surreal that I just kept waiting for someone to grab us and be like, "Hey, this is a private party. Like, you can't be here."
Well, and that's also the feeling. Like, I was kind of in my head toying with on the one hand, you're so excited to be right in the middle of it, but at the same time, you don't want to intrude.
Yeah.
But it never, I never got the impression from anybody around us that they're like, what the hell are you guys doing? And I don't think we were pushy in a way. Like, we made sure that we were kind of standing in the back and kind of out of the way. But, just these simple things where I think during the ceremony, you popped over to the parents of Lou.
Yeah.
And
yeah. And
those are just.
I'll cut in what I said to Lou at some point in here. But I said the same thing to Lou, basically just saying how I'm incredibly proud of everything she did, and I'm that she is a wonderful person, and I am really glad that my daughter gets to grow up watching her race, because she's a great role model. But her parents were like, thank you, and just like really generous.
Well, and on top of that, like I do not think that her attitude and her behavior, demeanor, whatever you want to call it, like, she was pretty much exactly the same like she was in Camor when she already knew she couldn't win the Globe, and she got the best result that she could have by bumping into second place. Like, you could totally see that she would have been just, hide under a bridge somewhere and I don't know. She took it so well, and I'm sure she had her moments after at some point. But to still be out there, and I guess she had to be for the Globes, but or the handing out. But
right, because we saw her. Not after that. She could have gone away after that, but we saw her run across the snow to go take pictures with fans. She was clearly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. When I think they were about to leave, and then at the end of the bridge there, the fans couldn't go any further.
Yep. So she ran over there and just ran to go take a picture of them. She comes back, and the French media guy barked at her. That guy was such a piece of work.
I don't know.
I say that knowing that we're never going to get a French interview, so it's okay.
Wow. Yeah. No, but it was, there were some media people, because, a lot of these athletes, they have someone from their team with them to, make sure that because they have, like, do the doping control, they have the ceremonies and stuff. So they just kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that they don't have 50 questions from one person. And, some were sort of strict, but very lenient at the same time, and just friendly enough to chat. And this guy was just like,
when I went to go,
everybody.
Yeah, everybody. And when I went to go,
disgruntled that we wanted to ask a question. It's like, we've been standing here for over an hour.
Yeah.
Do you really think we're just enjoying the view? Like, clearly we were waiting for Lou to talk to her, even if it's like 10 seconds, and then you seem disgruntled that we want to talk to her. Like, really weird.
When you finally hear the audio of when I chatted with Lou briefly, you can actually hear him. He goes, ugh.
Yeah, like, no, I totally remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, these guys want to talk to her too.
Yeah. And I get it. I get it. They've got so many things to do, but he was like this from the minute after the race. Like, he just seemed like, he had
every race.
Yeah, every race. And to their credit, the athletes were amazing. Every French athlete we talked to was so friendly. Lou, Camille, Justine was amazing. I'll talk about her later. Ocean was great. They were all really fantastic. This guy just doesn't do them any service, I don't think. On conversely, Maren Hammerschmidt is amazing.
Yes.
I thought, with working with the German team, she definitely, kept all the German women, especially Franzi, the German men also, but kept Franzi on her schedule. Understood that there were going to be, she would say 2 questions. She would let it go couple questions beyond that. But, definitely kept Franzi on her schedule. But she was polite. She was firm. She was willing to chat and have a good time, when she wasn't under any time deadlines. She was amazing. And I cannot thank her enough. I can't remember the name of the woman from Emma from Sweden.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It was Emma. Anyway, she was very sweet as well. Just really nice, helpful. So
I might as well shout out to I forgot I keep
Giorgio?
thinking of him as Fondo.
Yeah, Giorgio from Fondo Italia. Our good buddy, hanging out with us for all that time in the little corral.
And all those people actually,
yes.
There was, we were kind of joking at some point that we were to the right of Fondo and the athletes came from the right. And then we were just kind of chatting and hanging out, waiting. And then they ended up on our right. So we were just kind of joking, but there was no pushing, no sneaking in, no, like, everybody was
of course.
Respectful of each other. And sometimes they're like, okay, you guys want to do it in German. So you go together, and then the English guys go together, and, you just respect that you can't always all have time with the athletes, so you just kind of, record each other's interviews. So you have some audio, I don't know. Yeah. I really appreciated that, because I knew it was going to be very different from Camor, where there was literally like 3 TV stations, the Czech radio, and then me. Where here, I think they had like 4 major TV booths.
I think it was more than that.
Norwegian, German, French.
Poland was there. Czech Republic was there.
Right, but those first ones where they almost had a studio.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I see what you mean.
And then they had a number of, TV stations, radio stations, etc. And then right at the end, there was a section for the written press that was boxed off as a whole, but not individual boxes. But I don't know. That was just really cool to hang out. And sometimes the waiting is long, right? Especially when you're waiting for the winners or the Bow brothers and everybody was just super kind. And I don't know. There's so many positive memories, but just talking about that, those things also stand out where, the ladies in the kitchen of the media center were, feeding us the whole time we were there, and always friendly and smiling.
With the
and
most amazing waffles.
Oh, yeah, they were good.
I could have put away
I felt
5
so
of those
bad.
at a time.
Talking about a kid in a candy store that is allowed to take whatever. Like, I felt so bad because it was like, well, I have one more. Oh, maybe we'll take one for
and
the
they
walk
just
back.
kept making them, and they were so warm.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we would go in there between races, because usually by the time we finished with interviews to the start of the next race was literally like 5 minutes. And so go over there. I would grab like a Gatorade and a water and shove them in my backpack and in my pocket. I would just load up my pockets with like a muffin and a banana. We would grab some waffles, stuff them in my mouth, and we'd be out the door again. Those women were amazing. Yeah. I just wanted to say real quick. I think it's Mateus, I think is how you pronounce it. The Polish gentleman that we spent a bunch of time with, and awesome, like so enthusiastic and excited about the sport. And I would love to have spent more time with him, but I know we all had things to do. And then there was a woman who's Norwegian, and I cannot remember her name for the life of me, but I have her website.
But because she lived in the States for a while, right?
In Oregon.
Her English was very good.
Yeah. She actually, when I asked where she's from, she said Bend, like Bend, Oregon. But yeah, she works Longren.com is who she writes for. She writes all of their biathlon and cross-country content as well. She was so nice. And I'm definitely looking forward to chatting with her more in the future.
I wanted to, so you mentioned Justine Brézard-Boucher, and that kind of brings me back to one of my highlights is at some point. So I was there a day earlier than Jordan, and I went out to, there was an email about an interview with the Bow brothers, like a separate press conference, so they could take questions and ideally be left alone after that. But so I was going to do that. That was on a Thursday. Ended up in the wrong train because I'd figured out the correct platform, but going westbound, I should have taken line 1, ended up on line 5 that went westbound when I got in, and then quickly went northbound and northeastbound, and I didn't find out until quite a bit after. But anyway, I make it there, and in the hotel, the atmosphere was already like really relaxed, and the Bow brothers were sitting there, and I kind of snuck in and was able to get, like, I didn't really have a question prepared, but then I just got to the point where they're like, okay, any further questions? I was like, well, I'm here now anyway. So I asked Tarje about last season if he would have won the yellow bib or the overall globe if he would have retired, and he's like, oh, totally, yes. And it was kind of a funny response. I learned afterwards that he had already gotten a similar question, I think, or more about generally if he thought about retiring before. But anyway, so it was really cool. And then and then I met Ron from Extra Runde podcast and Michael Reusch, who was actually funny because they mentioned meeting me on the Extra Runde podcast that Michael Reusch is often a guest or co-host, whatever you want to call it. And then they just briefly mentioned that I also speak German, and then, or Ron mentioned it, and then Michael Reusch is like, well, why do we speak in English then? Because I mean, Ron was there, and Michael Reusch, and then I think Ron's girlfriend was there, and we were just listening to Michael talking about his adventures of skiing in Camor, where when he was more or less retired, but then the Belgian team that he raced for at the time, they needed to get some more team points for another spot for the next season. And the final event was in Camor. So they asked him to come over, and I think his Michael Reusch's partner was, I don't know, she was due really soon, but she was quite far into her pregnancy, but he decided to go there. His rifle got stuck at the airport and lost, or he didn't have his own rifle, but he suits up for the final race. And then he tells this story about literally being the fourth leg, getting into the race after all this, and then within a minute, JT Bow passes him in their lap, and he can go back home again. So it's just, he's such a funny guy. The way he was telling it was pretty cool, and but they did get the points, I believe, so it was worth it. But yeah, anyway, it was great to meet those guys.
While chatting with them. I think you spent time chatting with them probably every day.
Yeah. When we kind of bumped into each other, it was nice. Like it been following them quite a long time, that podcast, and I just, it used to be 2. Now Ron's doing it by himself, and
you're going to leave me and join them.
I don't. What's that?
You're going to leave me and join them? Is that what I'm hearing?
No,
not
at all. No, because like I speak German, but it just doesn't come out very easily or fluently.
Mm-hmm.
But I can listen to the whole podcast and know 90% of, or 95% of what they're talking about. So, so anyway, that was super cool. Hanging out in the hotel, realizing that, all these athletes are here. And that brings me to the next day where, I'm sitting on one of those deck chairs, enjoying the view of the fjord into the beautiful weather, surrounded by athletes. Like there's the French athletes are doing a warm up and stretching. The Swiss athletes are doing spike ball. There's some Norwegians running around. And then, I get this, I got to the hotel, and I got on the train, and then, I got out. So it's this weird moment of, do I walk towards him or do I just wait here? That is kind of, anyway, I think I, in the end, walked over to you, and it was just so cool to see you. Like, we've been seeing each other on at least weekly basis for 3 years?
3 years, yeah. Almost. This is our 4th season, our fourth go through. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
To find, and having so many setbacks on, you being stuck in Denver or whatever the reason was,
we just had to
finally meet each other in Oslo.
We just had to go to Norway
in front of this historic hotel, this historic venue.
Yeah.
And then literally, I would say within 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
That we sat down, and then Mama Justine walks in with her baby on her arm, and looking like a true mom who had a rough night. The baby not sleeping.
Yep.
Like hair tousled up, not grumpy, but like droopy eyes, and just like total mom mode. It's incredible to imagine that later that day she was racing.
Oh, yeah. And then you sort of understand why she had the race she had, because I don't know that she slept a whole lot the night before. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not an ideal preparation.
It felt so real, right? Like, you just, in that moment, you saw her and you're like, oh, I have been there. I know that. Or like, I have seen that look on my wife's face. Like, I get it.
Totally. Yeah. And just, again, being so grateful for just meeting the people behind the athlete. Mm-hmm. And almost, again, feeling like an intruder. And I don't know, I think we did a pretty good job trying to sort of melt into the environment and not bug anybody. I don't know. It was such a crazy experience to all these athletes you see on TV and you cheer for, and not just being there, but just being so kind and open and just walking around freely and being pretty relaxed, and just, reason 572 why I love this sport. So I don't know, that was, and that's where we just really you and I just kind of started chatting, and while you're meeting each other face to face for the first time, we're just surrounded by the people that brought us together in the first place. So I thought it was a pretty cool. Cool moment.
Yeah. That hotel, I echo that entirely. It was funny. That morning I got in, I had planned that I was going to go drop stuff at the hotel and head straight out to the venue. And then I got there. They were still serving breakfast, which was amazing, by the way.
Which you didn't pay for that day, by the way, because they saw the bill and they only charged for one breakfast. So.
Oh, okay.
Good job.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Well, I wish I could have done that more often. And anyway, I got food in my stomach and I was like, nope, I'm going to fall asleep. So our meeting was delayed by an additional hour because I needed a nap.
Yeah, and I wasn't, because you texted me, you're like, I'm just going to lay down. I'm like, oh, is this going to be one of those where it's like 5 PM and you're like, oh, crap.
No, thankfully it was not.
It all worked out. So
yeah, so we got up there and We were at the venue, or not the venue, we were at the hotel, which was actually, we started every day. We walked out to the hotel. So we had a lot of moments of standing or sitting outside or sitting inside and just watching the biathlon world kind of go on around us. There was the Swiss women were out there playing spike ball every day, and we ended up talking to Sandra Pfluger about that. And she said that she started it at the beginning of the season. She started having the athletes play spike ball, and the women on the team were a little bit questioning of it at first. But by the end of the season, they were quite competitive, and they were beating the men's team. They were going after it. I was watching, I think there was, Lena Heike Gross was over there, but really the entire women's team.
Yeah.
And they were quite competitive. Maya Klutens joined them.
Klutens, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, she joined in, and it was clearly her first time playing, but she picked it up pretty quick. She's got some pretty amazing leverage considering she's about 6.5 feet tall. She's really tall. But her and Amy Baserga, I think, were the two that I was most, like, I knew they were tall, but you stand next to them and like, wow, you guys are really tall.
Yeah.
So they were playing spike ball. We saw a bunch of people out for a run. Eric Perot went for a run on a couple of days with, I guess that was his girlfriend. And I don't know if I'm supposed to know who that is, but I certainly did not recognize her at first glance. No. The Norwegian men were out there. Was that on the day of the pursuit? Sort of,
I believe so. Yeah.
Standing around and joking around, and it looked like they were about to be interviewed, but instead they just kind of wandered off.
Yeah.
So I just kept waiting for them to be interviewed, but instead they were just kind of laughing and having a good time. We saw, everybody coming in and out. We saw this is one of my memories, was seeing the Norwegian van that was carrying all of the skis and equipment over to the venue, and it was stacked like literally from like every square inch of space was packed with skis and equipment. Like you could not fit another thing in there. I don't know how they did it. Kudos to whoever packed that one. And then we saw Jay Thibault's granddaughter, not his granddaughter, excuse me, cool. his daughter. And because we were just watching these two adults playing with a toddler, and I was drawn to her. I was watching her because she is almost the exact same age as my daughter is, and so just watching her, I was very homesick at that moment. Just watching her, toddle around, and she was walking back and forth on a bench, from one adult to the other, and we had no idea who this was. And then they went over to the little overlook area to take a picture. I was like,
Yeah, because for reference, the hotel was full with athletes, but also a lot of other people that were either fans or family or friends, or maybe just guests that just happened to book that hotel and didn't even know what biathlon was. I don't know how many of those there were, but I mean, it could have been anybody, or just people going to the park there, or that lived, because it's kind of in a neighborhood, where there's lots of houses and stuff, so it could easily be anybody.
Yeah, so I saw them taking this picture and went over to offer to get all three of them in the shot at the same time, and I guess we started chatting after that. And they mentioned
Surprise,
I know. Started chatting with everybody, and they were like, "Oh, her daddy is a biathlete," and I was like, "Well, of course I have to ask who." And they're like, "Oh, Johannes Tignesbo," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, I think we've heard of him."
Yeah, but it was cool how they even, like, it wasn't like, it's, JT Bow, or like, it was very almost to the point where they're like, I'm not sure if you heard of him, but that kind of thing. I really love that response.
Yes.
And
it turned out it was
seeing you, where I could just sort of see that information slowly seeping into your body. You're like, what the I don't know. That was really cool to see that you were, you're just trying to sort of keep your composure, but at the same time, you probably wanted to be like, oh my God.
Yeah. I want to give you guys hugs. Yeah. So, and we just chatted with them about his retirement, upcoming, and I don't even know if I want to share the details, but
it was his parents-in-law, right?
His in-laws. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I just gave us a little more context as to about his retirement, and I'm very happy for him.
Yeah.
And he's obviously got great in-laws, and his daughter is very cute. I just wanted her to play with Alex a little bit, just to hang out and have a good time. I think they would have had a great time just like running around and just being silly little girls.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I don't know, it was just filled with moments like that.
Yeah.
I felt around that hotel. And again, just such a blessing to be able to just experience that. And, we're just kind of chatting by the fireplace, and then Max Cobb and Darlene.
Yeah.
No, is it Darlene?
Yeah.
We're just standing there. So I was like, well, just Max Cobb has been pretty responsive on social media with me when I was more active. So just wanted to say hi, and we ended up chatting for a bit, and then sitting back down, I was, being thankful for knowing German, because I was following. I kind of feel bad or guilty about it, because I felt like I was eavesdropping, but
they were having an open conversation.
They were whispering, and I was leaning in.
Yeah. They were not being quiet.
And I was trying to fill you in at the
you
same time.
You were texting me as they
were
listening,
just more out of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though you sat right next to me, but because I was going to send you, and then I was going to point at my phone that you needed to look at your phone, but I'm like, well, you might as well look on my phone. We're talking about contracts, and the one thing I'll say, I think we both had that, where we really were surprised at some point. They were talking about how close JT was to winning the Globe. It all seemed very focused on what does JT needs to do to win the overall.
Yep.
And I was shocked that so Ziggy had to look up on his phone what the point difference was.
Yeah.
Between the two and what JT Bowe needed to do. And I don't know, I just assumed then at the end of the season, where it's that close, I think that was before the pursuit, so it wasn't the final race, but that he needs to look up on his phone. Like, I don't know, you would think you go through pretty much every scenario that, if you are behind, like with 30 seconds, don't push it, because, you'll still be ahead of him if he gets first, stuff like that. Right. But it seemed like they really had no idea how much the difference really was. But, it was very interesting to hear the whole discussion being from JT Bowe's perspective, which surprised me a bit. But anyway, it was. I don't want to kind of list the other things that they talked about, because that's not really up to me to.
I would say not for public consumption, but regardless of where they were discussing it.
Just, I don't want to. Yeah. Anyway,
I will also say
nothing
that
conclusive too. Like, there was not like some news that we know that we can't bring out. That wasn't the case. But.
No, of course, yeah, and there's nothing that they said directly that made me say what I'm about to say. But I've felt this way for a couple of months now, that I am not sure how long Ziggy sticks around now that the Bowe brothers are gone, and obviously he gets a gigantic paycheck to coach the Norwegian team, but I think he wouldn't have ended up in Norway without the Bowe brothers to begin with. I'm just curious. Not that I think that there's an imminent space to go. I don't know. I'm curious to see what his relationship is like with the rest of the team.
Although it seems like 90% of the Norwegian athletes, both male and female,
go to him.
Are pretty much talking to Ziggy most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, Canada has an open spot for a head coach. I don't know if that would interest him.
The Polish men.
New challenge. Polish men have an opening,
Hey, can we talk about Tobias real quick?
Absolutely.
Tobias is amazing. There's no two ways to put it. And I do not just say that because of...
there's one thing, though. Like, his affection for American football is like...
It's too much.
No, just kidding.
Just kidding. Seriously, and I don't just say that because he's been on the podcast a couple of times, but because he genuinely treated us like we were just
royalty,
buds, right? Yeah. Every time he saw us, like, came over and just chatted with us for far longer than he had to. It didn't matter if we were in the media area. He came up to us in the hotel before the mass starts, and he had to run off so he could actually go sign Natalia Sidorovich up for the for the race. But and the biggest moment came at the end when we're standing out on the snow in the infield during or after the globe ceremony. It's really, he came up and was chatting with us, and every time he saw somebody, he was like, "Oh, you need to meet these people. Did you meet Tyrrell?"
And he would take off right away.
Yes, yeah. Like Dormacheva was walking by with her. I can't remember, was it her son? Her and Bjorn Dahlen's son in her arm.
I believe so.
And he's like, "Oh, you need to talk with her." Oh, okay, you got it. well, whatever you say, Tobias. But it was amazing. Or, we were just chatting with him about Jacqueline. He saw Jacqueline. He goes, "Oh, I'm going to go talk with him." And so he ran off and came back and said, "Oh, he said that he had a cramp on the third lap." Okay. He's just so happy. He introduced us to his brother and to his cousin. And of course,
chatting with his brother and cousin.
Yeah.
If he's always like that, and they're like, yeah, even as a child, he was exactly the same. But it's so cool though, because his brother too knew all these guys, and then was chatting, and then they had this. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think as a kid you can go in Norway. I think after high school you can go to this sports academy kind of education where there's, I guess, a good balance between working on your sports career while also getting good education. But so I think his brother was saying that he skied with Tarja, right? Because they were from the same year.
Yeah, like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, and so these guys know all these athletes that they went to the same school with, and then at some point your ways go in different directions, and but they're still, it wasn't like, "Hey Tarja, do you remember me? I went to school with you." It was like, "Hey buddy,
yeah, haven't seen you in a while." Yeah,
yeah. So
and Tobias was a coach on the Norwegian team when Johannes was a junior. Was that? Do I have that correct? And it was just funny to watch them interact because clearly they've known each other for forever.
Yeah, no, totally. It was super cool.
And then obviously the highlight, or one of the highlights, but the highlight of that particular moment was when Tobias corralled Tarja, and he had a quick chat with him and then sent him over in my direction so I could actually thank him for everything he's meant to me. And I've talked about it at length. I've written about it a bunch. But that will go down. I think I gave Tobias a big hug. I sort of lost my mind after that, but I just told him like how much that meant to me.
Well, and then we haven't really mentioned that about, not a surprise, but what an awesome athlete who has been in bed with fever, has been respectfully haunted by the press because he's retiring. And I don't know what your impression was, but to me, he did not for a single second seem like, he's another fan or another.
Not at all.
He was like genuinely happy to meet you and shake your hand, and obviously he didn't have half an hour to talk about the weather in Florida, but he didn't seem rushed or whatever. He just took his time to say hi, and I don't know.
I'm forever grateful for Tobias for that moment. It meant the world to me because, I mean, quite literally, you and I are not sitting here doing this if Tarja doesn't exist. Like, I think that was part of why I just dove in so deeply. Yeah. So anyway, Tobias, if you're listening, you've got 1,000 other better things to be doing right now. But big thank you. I will appreciate it forever.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's another reason why I keep bringing it up, but biathlon is just such a great sport that a person who can talk to so many other people there, takes his time to not only introduce us to some people, but like you said, like stops by, chats with us, even when he's like almost like, I almost felt to a point like, I hope he's not going to be too late with giving Sidorovic or polls or whatever.
Yeah.
And also having very open conversations about things, and it was just super friendly, super cool guy. Yeah.
100%. It's everything you could have, hoped for.
And if we're ever in Denver, because the Broncos are his team, I'm going to invite him I'll take him to a game.
Yeah, there we go.
That will be my treat.
Yep.
I'll be bored for a couple of hours, and then
I think you owe it to him. Yeah.
a fun drink after.
You owe it to him. We also got to meet Lizzie from Ski Shoot Repeat podcast, and Christoph, I mentioned him from Biathlon Stats. I don't believe that we ever all got us in the same place at the same time, but that was pretty cool to be able to meet them. Lizzie is every bit as enthusiastic about biathlon as you would imagine.
And it sounds like it rubbed off on Christoph.
yes, on her husband, her partner. Actually, I don't want to give it a label that should be there. Anyway, that she is amazing. Just an enormous bright ray of energy, and you could spot her. Literally, we did spot her from halfway across the venue, waving and dancing. So that was pretty neat. And I wish that we had more time. I think that in an ideal world, we would have had 6 extra hours a day, but it just doesn't happen.
It's so funny because before our trip, I kind of pictured that, we would do the races, record all our interviews, go to the media center and kind of go through them, and then, go back to the hotel, have a bite to eat, and then do a recording every night.
Yeah.
And clearly that didn't happen. Because I think we were just like, I think after 2 days, I was like, I need to write stuff down because I feel like my head's exploding and all this information is just falling out, and I worried that I'm not going to remember. So we have this like quite elaborate day-to-day list of things we experienced, and recording. I think by the time we ate and as we ate, rewatched the race, I think we were usually in bed by like not before 10.
We were tired.
Combined with the jet lag, and then staying in touch with the family. It
was a lot.
We were pretty tired by then. And
clearly, I thought so too, because I dragged the microphone and the microphone stand, which got tagged. Everything. Every time I went through security, they had to investigate what this was.
And they never asked me anything about the globes. Because I was
Speaking of the
worried
globes,
after.
Do you want to chat about them?
Sure. Yeah. This silly idea of, not silly in the sense that I do think that isolated pursuit is something that the IBU should have a reward for, rather than the 3 individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the people that may start in 40th place and end up in 12th when they have by far the fastest time, I think should be rewarded, like the isolated time. So anyway, so we had the pink bib when I ordered some what I thought were pink bibs, and they came out from Amazon as sort of orangey flags almost. The size that they were, so I was like, okay, that's not going to work. And then, typical me fashion, I came up with a simple idea to just replicate the globe, and especially not spend too much time on it. Well, that didn't go very well, so spent a bit more time on it than I should have. But in the end, ended up with 2 globes that I 3D printed and glued together, and then was thinking, I wonder if customs are going to be like, what's inside those globes? Because, it's pretty... So anyway, I was not nervous, but kind of like waiting for that question, but never came. They asked me other things about why my battery was not out of my bag and that kind of thing, but the globes were fine. So, and then I made this little quick spreadsheet so we could calculate right away who the winner of the globes were, and both Lou Jean-Monod and Sturla were, I don't know, just seemed genuinely excited, or at least thought it was a fun thing that they won that award. And I think Sturla was a little confused the day before after the sprint when we talked to him, and I said, "You got another globe to fight for tomorrow." And I'm not sure. Probably a bit of a language barrier.
He knew once you handed it to him.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it was fun because later on you were tapping me on the shoulder and like, hey, look what he's got in his bag, and he had this rifle bag slung on his shoulders, and the globe was sticking out. And then was it yesterday or no? Anyway, a couple of days after we got back, then there was this picture of Lou sending a picture of, is it Molly the doping dog? With the globe
that was
in
her dog. That was her dog.
Okay.
That wasn't even Molly the doping dog. That was hers. Yeah.
Okay. So her dog is playing with the globe, which is really funny because you were going to ask, you had this question lined up for Preutz.
Yeah.
Who I think at some point had the world championship medals.
Yep.
That
all around
her dog was playing with.
Yep. Yeah. So I was going to ask if the dog was going to get to play with the globe as well. Never got a chance to ask that question, but Lou answered it for us because her dog was playing with the isolated pursuit globe.
Right. No, so that was cool.
Yeah. Yep. It was Sturla had a picture of himself posing with Molly the doping dog, and it had he was holding the isolated pursuit globe as he was posing with Molly the doping dog. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that was fun.
They both were genuinely like, this is really neat. Like, this is cool. You know, they could have been like, whatever. And but they weren't at all. They seemed curious and happy, and they were having a good time with it.
I had mentally prepared myself that there was a chance that I could be walking back in and see it sticking out of a garbage bin somewhere. Yeah. Not that I expected that, but I was just like, they got other things on their mind. Like, I don't mean it in any negative way.
Yeah.
But that was not the impression I was getting at all. So
no, they both made it. Well, we know that Lou's made it all the way home to her puppy, and I have very good feeling that Sturla's made it home as well, because he definitely packed it up and put it in his bag. That was pretty
definitely
cool.
Gonna start earlier for next year.
I hope so. I was getting updates like in the days and hours leading up to leaving.
Yeah, that was a bit crazy.
It was. Did you have a favorite athlete that we talked to that maybe we didn't record? Because we talked to a bunch, and I wanted to mention some of them now too, if you don't mind.
But yeah, there were so many, but definitely our chat with Emma and Pascal Parody, Emma Lunder and Pascal, and then later also with Deirdre Irwin.
That was so funny. So
I
Deirdre
think it's
Irwin
those that you don't really have prepared, and let's be honest, they're all amazing athletes, but they have a bit more time to chat.
Yeah,
and they don't necessarily have a press person saying, "Oh, one more question," and then move on. So that's nice, because then you get the sort of loose conversations that are, I don't know, they're very memorable, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Campbell Wright, same thing, but I think he can have 3 press people around him or media people.
Nobody can stop him.
He's still as loose as, So
can we just run through my favorite Campbell Wright?
I don't want to feel like we forget anybody, but just especially knowing that Emma had her last races, I think was pretty special to be part of that. And, even seeing them watch the race as well, sidetrack where we were, and I don't know, Zach and Logan were there, and it was just super cool to just kind of chat with them. And
Emma was really cool, like you said, knowing it was her last weekend, and she spent sort of increasing amounts of time with us throughout the week. I think we saw her briefly the day of the sprint. We talked to her a bit longer after her final race, the pursuit, and we congratulated her on hitting her last 5 shots of her career, which is actually something that, somebody like JT Bowe can't say. So there you go. You got that. You can pat yourself on the back. But she was, we talked to her about running into her brother on the
train.
Yep. On the way back in. That was funny. But it was just really nice to have that experience with her, because, she's somebody that you have talked to more than me, but I've just watched her for a while, and I think we both feel this way about the Canadian and American athletes, that they're sort of like our guys, not that we like them necessarily more, but we understand them a little bit better just living here.
Yeah.
So that was really neat. I have this really great picture of Emma watching after the men finish the mass start. She is standing watching sort of the celebration take place in the finishing area, and I'll send it to her eventually. I felt kind of like a creep taking it, but it was just this really cool picture. But yeah, so I'll have to send that to her.
It's not the picture so much. It's more that you were taking a really good spot and she couldn't see.
No. So there was that.
To, move over.
So there was we were in a spot, and we offered to move, and she's like, no, you need to stay here because you flew all the way flew all the way over to see it. But no, I do have a good picture. Deidre Irwin grew up very close to where my parents grew up, and so that was fun just to, because she seemed like she was on her way out, and then I mentioned that, and it was like, well, I'll just stop and have a
that was like a click.
Yeah,
a switch that was turned, and
and
I enjoyed seeing that because she was just in like, race is over, I just want to get out of here kind of thing.
Yeah,
and then you said that, and all of a sudden it was no, that was super cool.
That was funny. We asked her about what it's like racing or having Campbell on the same team. Her answer was funny. I'm not even going to try to remember it all, but just it was, you can tell that he's got a lot of energy. And speaking of Campbell, every time we ran into him, he was just exploding with energy, exactly like you'd expect him to be. The very first time we ran into him he was walking out after his sprint was done, and we were walking up to where the athletes were being interviewed, and he was already past that point. And I just tapped him on the shoulder, introduced us, and he was like, "Hey, I shot like a bag of shit, huh, boys?" It was so funny.
Yeah.
That was like the first words he said to us, in person.
But that's just what he's like, right? Because even when we were standing around later, and you just see him interact with fans, he's exactly the same kind of guy.
Yep. And another time, I think it was during the pursuit, we talked to him, and it's just like, man, lap 3, my legs were gone.
Yeah.
All right, we ran into him after he was carrying, this must have been after the globe ceremony, because he had his U-23 globe, and he was trying to make his way out. Or maybe this was the pursuit, and he was like, yeah, I've already been leaving for 30 minutes. It's like,
yeah. People wanted to take pictures.
And that was the coolest thing about it, was that in the venue, people treated Campbell right. Like he was a Norwegian, or like he was one of the top like French athletes. They would announce like he was coming through, and the fans would cheer for him. I've just never imagined that for an American or a Canadian. That's very neat.
No, I think he's one of those people that is going to be really good for the sport, because I mentioned the Extra Runde podcast. He's been mentioned on there. Some other athletes, the Doppelzimmer with Eric Lesser and Arne Pfeiffer, they have mentioned him a number of times already. And I mean, to him as an ambassador, like how he's so connectable, easy to connect to, but then a lot of younger athletes from North America who see a guy with that positive and vibrant attitude, and then at the same time being an American, like representing America. I just, there's nothing but good things that can come from that for biathlon in North America, and for him and for the IBU.
Man, I know he's so young still. We had some really good shots with Lotte Lee, I thought.
Yes, she's always nice. Like, so
nice.
Every time I see her, it's never, I swear,
she has the biggest smile.
I need to talk to her. Yeah. And so just open.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just always a pleasure to see her. And
yes. Yep. I enjoyed chatting with her, after all of her races.
Baiba? You met Baiba.
Oh, Baiba, yes.
Face to face for the first time.
Yeah. Face to navel because she's quite short. I love Baiba.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
I'm glad, watching her on Instagram. I'm really glad that she's back home. And I brought a little. So she collects marmots, and we don't really have marmots in Florida, but we do have. We have Chip and Dale from Disney World. So I brought her a Chip and Dale for her son. And the day after she got home, she sent me a picture of her son snuggled up with his Chip and Dale. And it was very sweet. So there was that. I gave another present to Justine for her daughter. And at first, when I was talking to Justine, I had to chase her down because was this after the pursuit? I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to talk to her again, so I better just go do it now.
Yeah, she walked around the back, I think, because I was confused what you were doing at first.
Yeah. And she went out a way that athletes did not normally go. She went up these stairs and out. So I chased her down. And at first she was like, I don't know what's happening. Basically, you could read it on her face because I was trying to introduce who I was and let her know that we've really enjoyed watching her the last couple of years and as a mom and all that. And then I pull out a little Mickey Mouse for her daughter, and all of a sudden you could see oh, I'm a mom again. And she was like, oh, that's so sweet. And she's like, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. She pulled my my press pass over to make sure she saw my name. And it was you could just watch. It was the blink of an eye. Her face goes from I don't know about this to, oh, for my daughter, this so it was really neat. And so Justine, hopefully has a Mickey Mouse somewhere, and she'll never remember my name, I imagine, but hopefully she remembers that interaction because it'll mean a lot to me going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day where she, how Lou had her dog with the globe.
Yes,
maybe Justine will post a picture of her daughter with the Mickey Mouse.
With the Mickey Mouse, yeah. Now all these memories are just coming rapid fire now. While we were watching the men's race, and we're going to have to do a whole nother podcast just about the races in Oslo because I feel like we have really skipped those except for the women's mass start. But we're watching the men's race, and Jacqueline in the second lap just goes. He does the full Jacqueline experience, and we were standing around with some athletes, and I'm not going to name names because they all know each other, but we were standing around, and you could just hear athletes be like, "Well, there he goes," and they were sort of taking bets on who or on how long he was going to be able to
what
lap.
What lap he's going to explode.
Yes, what lap he's going to explode. And you can tell they've all seen this so many times and it's sort of entertaining to them to watch it happen. But my general impression was that they all have very good feelings about him. There was nothing, nobody was hoping for him to blow up, but just they've seen it happen so many times and they're just sort of in awe of that he keeps doing it.
But the funny thing is that everybody knows that
yes,
there's going to be one day where he just keeps going and going and wins the whole thing, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And that may not be this year or next year or the year after, but there's always a chance. And I think that's why it's so exciting because we've seen him do it before. We've also seen him not do it many times, but
that was another funny thing is when he had a cramp. He started slowing down on, was it the third lap? And the PA announcer was talking about how Samuelson was catching up to him. And it's like, oh, it looks like Jacqueline is slowing down a little bit. And Samuelson's catching up. And somebody around me was like, yeah, I don't think he's doing it. I don't think he's doing it on purpose.
No. That
was so much fun.
Moment.
And that the men's mass start I mentioned earlier, it felt like a celebration because everybody was up where we were by that point. And it felt like as the race went on, initially there were these barriers where you were supposed to stand behind, and as the race went on, athletes and coaches crept further and further out onto the snow. So it was very much
I remember it because there was coaches there, and there was this German coach. I think he was lining up the skis against the side of the bridge, and the poles all sorted neatly and stuff. And I'm just thinking, there's no way in hell that you can fight your way through all these people cheering and
so many people.
But
it was very neat just to watch them enjoy that race. Again, there was no tension in it. There was no overall globe to fight for at that point. It was just purely a celebration. Everybody was ready to just have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Logan Putz and Zach Connolly, I believe. And we were talking about, is it always this way, or is this unusual? And they said anytime it's the mass start, it's like the last race before there's a break. So it's the same way before at the end of the first trimester that there's just a very loose atmosphere.
Yeah, it reminded me very much of the sort of atmosphere in Camor last year. And, it was also very similar weather conditions. So that probably helps too, because I think Christoph from Biathlon Stats, he was talking about, had he been there the prior years that it was super foggy and rainy? Or did he just remember that from, anyway, or I don't recall if he was physically there or watched it, but we were so lucky with the weather.
It was gorgeous.
Was it could have been so different too.
It had rained every time he had been there.
Yeah.
Do we see like a cloud? There was, until like the very, very end. I think it was the last evening.
Yeah, basically when the globes were handed out and everything on the Sunday, I think that's where I told you, like, hey, there's some clouds showing up.
Yeah, that was exactly
it. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
That globe ceremony was so much fun. I mean, we had like kids. I think it was there was a kid doing cartwheels. There was another, I think JT Bo's son was throwing snowballs. It was just,
yeah, it was probably just another ceremony.
Another ceremony. I don't know. Can we do this again?
Papa has to go in the podium again.
It was getting pretty chilly out there at the end.
I must say, of the whole family, I think the daughter's name was Nina. That's the only name I kind of remember.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It was so funny because you were ahead of me, and I'm walking back along the straight, the finish line there. And then you're like, hey, RJ, take a picture. And
this is the day.
I just assumed.
Yeah.
And I assumed that you bumped into people that you have known for a long time on social media or whatever it was. And even the way you were just like standing with them and stuff. So I take the pictures, and then I don't know, I think we chatted for a bit, and then we just kind of turned around and watched the trackside. And I realized you just met those people because they had a cool sign that you said something about, and then you just started chatting. And then, at that point, I thought it was just two people, and then we realized. Did we chat more with them after in that area, or was it the next day?
Yeah, it was at the end. So we chatted with them a bit, and
so it was like what, 6 or 7 people?
Yeah. Yep. There was a mom and dad,
brother and sister, and then their parents.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think there was one, probably one of the brothers and his partner.
Yep.
Or girlfriend. Anyway, they were just such a cool family to go out there and just cheer on Preuss and, well, all the Germans, but
the way I started,
and then just taking the time to just chat, like it's just so funny.
The way it started was I was standing near them at the finish line when Jean Monod finished, and I found out first that Preuss had held on by 0.2 seconds, and they had this big Preuss sign. So I told them because I was like, well, they'll be interested, and then we started chatting after that. Sorry, I think you were going to tell the rest of the story about our interactions with them.
Oh no, it was just. Like within 10 minutes, because you have biathlon in common, you're just chatting with them as if they're like, longtime friends.
Mm-hmm.
And because we saw them before, and then we saw them on the Mass Start day as well.
Yep. When we saw them on the pursuit day, we hiked up. We hiked up into the hill. That name I can't remember.
Yeah.
We saw them coming up, and we just happened to pass them, and we're like, "Hey!" It's like our old friends, and honestly didn't know that we would find them again. And then
no, because I mean, it's
several
thousand
crowd there. Yeah. And then on the Mass Start day, we were again up on the hill, and there they were. We just they called out to us. So yeah, I think on the morning of the Mass Starts, we probably spent like 30 or 45 minutes with them. We were hanging out.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, it wasn't like we just popped by, said hi, and moved on. And no. So that was super cool. But,
and Nina, she got Tangible to autograph on her bib.
Yes.
I was very happy to see that.
That was one of her main goals. So From the picture, I think it was at the finish area.
Yeah.
Right.
Very happy.
That was crazy too. Hey, when we walked back, I don't know, it must have been an hour at least after the last ceremony, and you walk back along the finish line, just the finish straight, and still so many fans just patiently waiting along the boards for autographs, and you see numerous athletes just standing there taking selfies with them and signing things, and I don't know, it's just such a great sport. Just really unbelievable how close you can get to them and how you see the personal side of them. I think that's...
You see how...
Yeah, I feel like we left out about 5,000 things, but...
Well, I was going to mention a couple funny ones. We were standing around waiting, and I forgot who we were waiting for, but Maren Hammerschmidt was walking with Simone Kaiser, I think it was, and she thought that we were gonna talk to him, and I was like, no, we don't, because I wanted to talk to Maren. And he was so funny. He goes, "Oh wow, you don't want to talk to me." So at some point we need to have him on, just even if it's only just to apologize.
Yeah.
So that was good. I think
that's also the same area where I was kind of looking around and I see JT Bow walking and being interviewed, like literally, well, maybe not quite within arm's reach. And then you look to the NRK booth, who's also like within 2 arm reaches, and there's like Olainer Bjørndalen and Tira Lekhoff. And then you look another way, and there's Martin Fourcade.
Yes.
And you're like, my God, I'm just standing in between probably the 3 best male biathletes we've ever known.
Well, I was going to mention Fourcade because he kept following us. So we were standing there, and he came along, and I don't know if he was doing interviews or just chatting with some people he knew in the press area, but he was blocking our view for a little while, and then we went out onto the course, during the last race, and there was Fourcade standing behind us, and then damn it, I was in the airport, waiting to find out where my plane was going to be, what gate it was going to be at, and there was Fourcade again. He wouldn't leave me alone. This guy, the nerve of him.
Maybe he was trying to get an interview with us.
I think so. I think he's like,
being the shy person that he is,
he'll start chatting with me. Oh, there's another one. Speaking of shy people, Kenton Fiume. I think I mentioned this somewhere, but that was a really sweet moment too. We were standing there. We were in the hotel the morning of the pursuit, and he was chatting with somebody that clearly everybody knows. And all of a sudden, this young woman comes and stands next to him, and he looks over, and he's got this huge smile on his face. It turns out his girlfriend showed up a day earlier than he was expecting her to be there. And he was very kind and continued to chat with this guy who I wanted to be like, hey man, just like let him go. Like his girlfriend just showed up. Like, you just read the room and let him go. But, and then he gave his girlfriend a huge hug and a kiss. They went off, and I just thought that was really neat. Just a side of him that I've never seen before. Not that I didn't think it existed, but we've never seen that side. It was really neat. And we chatted with him about that.
And you realize how young they are.
Yeah, very much
when
so.
You see them up close.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've been chatting for a while, and we, like I said, we've barely even touched on the races, so we're going to have a whole nother episode just about that. I honestly, we've left out 800 things.
Yeah. I definitely feel like we can have at least 1 or 2 more about Oslo, and then we still have the Youth Junior World Championships.
Oh gosh,
and
the season wrap up too.
Yeah, and apologize to our listeners, and thank you for being patient with us, because obviously we haven't been as structured.
Yeah, been totally rambling.
Yeah, but no, it's just we do really try hard to make it work every Sunday night and post it on Monday morning. But both being working dads, it's not always working out that way. But we'll definitely aim to keep you in the loop of biathlon during the summer and off season.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully we can. Yeah, there. I was going to say we can talk about the race next time, but I feel like there's still so many things. Apologize for anybody we haven't mentioned specifically, because I know we're leaving out the people from Belgium that we ran into course side. Yeah, just so many people. So
yeah, let's cut it there, and we will be back very shortly. All right, talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.